everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we're thrilled to have Michael Johnston, a renowned strategist and business success architect. Mike is a mastermind in challenging the status quo and architecting success. With a rich history of partnering with Australia's corporate giants like Chandler, McLeod, Newcom International, and Canva, he's transformed mindset practices into tangible results. Mike's prowess has led over 100 businesses to staggering profits, with many achieving growth between 30 to 250%. A fervent advocate for financial literacy, Mike's strategies have empowered thousands. Trained by global business magnates like Tony Robbins and Jay Abraham, Mike's analytical approach to business mirrors his passion for sports. In 2020, he officially launched Evolve, a revolutionary business community. And today, I've asked him to join us to share his story, plus some smart, simple solutions to grow our businesses 30 to 250% in any situation. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
Excited to be here. I'm going great.
It's good to have you. And so before we hop into the business strategies and stuff, I want to know, how did you even get started? You alluded a little bit before I hit record. Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Is this like a generational trade of sorts?
Yeah. Look, it's a unique story, right? I didn't get along with my dad. I love my dad. My dad loved me, but we didn't get along that well. And my dad was entrepreneurial. He had 5 businesses, at least, that I can think of growing up, but none of them were successful. My mom and him used to fight all the time about whether or not they could even afford to get us lunch meat for our lunches. And my dad always had these companies. And so when I got to a chance where I could choose business subjects in high school, I started choosing the business subjects, particularly marketing, because I figured if I could learn this, then my dad would ask me for help. And then we would form that relationship through the fact that I could help in these businesses. And look, he never did, but I did start to fall in love with business and the idea of it. So I continued to pursue it. I continued to go down that path. And yeah, always preparing myself for that day he'd ask me for help.
Got it. Okay. So can you talk about your business career? You said you dove into marketing at the beginning. Why marketing? And did that solve all your problems?
Look, yeah, it came from, there was this guy when I was growing up, and he was like featured in most like Harvard Business Reviews magazines, which I could get from like the local news agency. And his name was Peter Drucker. And he said that business was 2 things, innovation and marketing. And while he didn't mean technology when he was talking about innovation, that's what I thought. And I was like, I haven't got a skill set in that area, and it seems really complicated and hard. But this marketing side seemed to go along with my creativity, my analytical side. So it was like this mesh of those 2 things. I was really good at art and I was really good at math. The math came from my dad, the art came from my mom. And I was like, I figured marketing was this mesh between the 2. And so I really went down that path. My dad struggled to really get his businesses to grow. And he was very talented. Like, he was smart. He was probably the smartest man I ever knew, but he just couldn't seem to get it. And I saw marketing as this way of helping him. If I could figure out this piece to his business, this piece to the puzzle, then maybe we wouldn't be arguing about whether or not we could have bologna on our sandwiches for lunch.
Right. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced then in developing your skill set?
Look, the biggest challenge is, I think in the beginning, I went too far to the creative side. And like any person that's artistic, I fell in love with my campaigns. I fell in love with my own marketing. And when those things didn't get the result, I started to question whether or not I could even do this. In the beginning, I really hated doing the analytical stuff, the surveys, the reaching out to the customers, the figuring out, looking at the numbers. I really tried to avoid that because I felt like it encroached on my creative side. And because of that, I actually didn't have a lot of success in the beginning. I had great ideas. Like, it was one of those, when I presented it to people, they loved it, but the result just didn't back it up. And I started to learn how to appreciate measuring and letting the analytics tell you what to do. So that was a bit of a steep curve for me. And I was in and out of marketing for first, say, 10 years of my business life. I would go in, I'd have a big win, I'd build up, and then something would turn and then it would drop and I'd go, I can't do this. And I'd jump out, and I've always tracked back to it. I always end up in a role where it's marketing that we have to develop. And it's one of the core functions, really.
Business, right.
Have something really amazing that's different in the marketplace, that solves a problem like nobody else, and then tell people about it in a way that engages them. And marketing really is that second element. And so I always veer back to it. It's that path that I'm best on. Most people, by the way, have great ideas. Most businesses, it's not the idea that fails.
Right.
It's the marketing. They just can't get leads. They can't talk about it in a way. Most people that even get successful initially in business, it's based on the fact that their network or the people that know them already know their inherent value, not because the business itself can explain that. So that's why you talk to a business person and they're going like, we don't do marketing. I just have word of mouth, which is really code for everybody who already knows me knows I'm valuable. Right. And I'm not sure why that is, but I'm making money from it. And so when they try to expand and go to the market, they can't communicate it in the right way.
I love that.
Doing that thing where they say, I'm one of those, but better.
Yeah, I always use the analogy like someone who's good at baking. Their friends go, "You should open up a bakery." So they love the idea. They're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a business owner," and they want the notoriety, the prestige, the success, the more money. So they plan their logo and they come up with their menu and they design the floor plan and then they shop around for a location that's within their budget and then they pick it and they furnish it and they get flowers and they have an opening day and they message all their friends and everybody comes and makes the obligatory one-time purchase. And then after that, they're so busy delivering. They're like, wow, I'm in business. I made all this money. It's so great. No one's making sure new people come through the door and they deliver on these obligatory purchases. But these people, their lives are in different places. Their reasons for purchasing don't merit follow-up purchases. And then they go, oh, I don't have a market. I'm not serving a community. I got to find a group, a market, a group of people for what I'm doing, and they might.
And other than price, what's different between me and that person down the road?
Right. Nothing. Right. I love that.
And I just see that usually is what costs somebody the game.
Right.
And it's like Monopoly, right? You ask people like how to play Monopoly and they'll give you 100 strategies, but how do you lose a Monopoly? You just run out of cash.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. And that's business. You just run out of cash. And it's because and you think because you keep going past that go and getting your $200 that you're doing well, but you're not. You're losing board share. You're losing market share the whole time because you don't know how to measure this. You don't know how to see it. Our needs as humans haven't changed in hundreds of years.
Right.
The products have, right? If you're in love with your product and you're not focused on the need or the problem you solve, then your business will have trouble if you don't understand that. And marketing is about understanding, what do I really do? And because most people can't do that, they say, I'm a bakery, I'm a bookkeeper. And the minute that product starts to shift or transform or gets disrupted, your business is gone.
They're not focused on the problem that they're solving. And that's what happened to newspapers when blogs came out. Right? They lost track of the problem they were solving for people. The Blockbuster versus, I love the scenario of Blockbuster. My readers here, or my audience knows this, bring it up all the time. Blockbuster versus Netflix. Blockbuster was a $6 billion per year company. They could have hired any talent. They could have developed any tech. They had an opportunity to buy Netflix. But nah, this small thing's never going to take off. It's like pizza delivery for videos. They don't have our monetization strategies. We have these assets, these locations. They're never going to compete with us. And they completely were detached from the problem they're solving. If you've been cutting hair all day, if you've been waiting tables, if you've been wearing construction boots on site all day, you don't want to drive somewhere else and then stand for half an hour in front of a wall with paralysis by analysis, wait in line, get the video, go home, watch it, then be billed extra because you didn't go out of your way to that store to drop it off on time. Where Netflix was pizza delivery. Catalog, you call us up, we deliver it, and then we pick it up and boom, and talk about convenience. And I love, 100%.
I love that example. Like because when people hear that example, like I did when I heard it years ago, I thought of Netflix is what I understand it to be now. And I'm thinking Blockbuster, like you guys really didn't see it, right? You guys really, you couldn't see that? Like we already had Napster. Like you couldn't see that people were going online, but it wasn't online at the time. Like you said, it was pizza delivery. But it was what they understood, the problem they were solving. They're like, people want home entertainment. They want convenience. And it was like, they got that the real problem they were solving, what was even driving Blockbuster's business, was convenience. And they're like, even though Blockbuster's got all these assets and all these stores, it still isn't as convenient as people want.
Right.
And we can solve the convenience problem. We can be a more convenient home entertainment business.
Right.
Right, which is what allowed them to even see the opportunity to going right onto people's smart TVs.
Right.
Right? Like, whereas Blockbuster completely missed it. They went, we are a video rental store, and they missed it. They were in love with their product, and Netflix was in love with the problem.
Yeah.
And because of that, they are now what, 100 billion? I think the sale price was 50 million at the time.
Something.
But and Blockbuster's broke.
And they've got like 10% of the staff. Blockbuster went bankrupt. Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, had this great thing where he talked about that markets are unknown and unknowable, ultimately, right? If I ask you how many people are shopping for a car right now, you'd have indicators, but you'd never know the true number, and it changes every second, every hour of every day. So ultimately, a market is unknown and unknowable, but excellence is recognized by everyone. So if you just focus on the problem you solve and being the most excellent at it, that should see you through thick and thin. And then, like you mentioned, though, the business graveyard is littered with world-class products and service nobody knew about. So you do need marketing, but at the same point, I heard this great thing that if you make a half-ass slap together thing, you have to crank that marketing wheel. You have to do reputation management to deal with bad reviews. You have to do so much work to get it out there, to make money, to patch up all these broken relationships and burnt customers and fires put out. Whereas if you instead focus on making something truly excellent and great, did anybody argue about having indoor plumbing? Was there any political debate about that? No to toilets, keep the buckets. No to toilets, keep the buckets. Flies are our friends. There was no political campaign around that. That was just the most excellent solution for a problem. And so it won. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it didn't require the marketing budget of the Ford Motor Company. It was just like, create something that's amazing, that solves a problem in a better way than already exists. And then your product's so remarkable, all you have to do is build awareness around it. I just need people to know about it. Yeah. And I think that's the other challenge we're seeing with marketing has become, there's so many channels for marketing. There's so much technology around marketing that somehow has become marketing. And we've lost the art of marketing. Marketing is about the message. Marketing is about, what do they want? What are their hotspots? What is it they don't like about people like me? And how do I do that better? And it's about, I remember somebody, I think it was even a sports quote originally. I think it was John Madden said, have one thing you stand for. I see all these businesses that are out there trying to be a million things because that's what the market is. And I'm going, I got into, arguably, you'd look at me and say, I'm a business coach. And I went, you know what? But I just want to deliver results. That's it. I don't care about anything else. The one thing this thing's going to do is deliver results. And I get feedback all the time. As I came to your seminar, so motivated, Mike. It was so amazing. I feel like I can take on the world. I love your education. I hear stuff like that. And I'm like, it's nice, but it's not what I for.
Yeah.
You know,
put more food on the table.
And because I am so focused on getting a result, when I get that client that's not getting the result, I'm just like, okay, what do I need to do to get the result? What do I need to do? And it's, let's drive it in. I have this thing called the core that I use to evaluate, but it's just, what do I need to do to get the result? And I think if you're that micro focused, you're going to become good. Like I've been doing this for business coaching. I've been doing for probably 15 years. After 15 years of constantly going, how do I get the result? You would hope I'd become good at it. Most people don't do that. They're like 15 years of, how do we add this feature? How do we make this better? I'm like, none of that worked. Remember in the 80s when you got like VCRs? That was like literally a product that was like, what can we add to this so that we've innovated it? And by the end, it had so many buttons, 80% of which you didn't even know how to use. And it was like, and nobody even saw the innovation coming. I'm just thinking like, how do I get the result? How do I get the result? Who cares about the product? I don't care about the product. Like, how do I get the result? And because of that just sole focus, I've become very good at it. I was scared to death of it in the beginning because I was like, what if I don't get the result? But over 15 years of just constantly doing that and going, no matter what, just try. I've built up a bit of a reputation for getting the result.
That's just fantastic.
And I now understand what the product would need to look like in order to systemize that.
Right. I love that. Can you speak? You said two things I want to circle back on. One, you said you learned to appreciate measuring. Can you wax poetic on that? What does that mean? And what are we measuring?
Look, measuring is like the truth, right? You can have a feel and you can have a gut. My first coach said, gut stands for gave up thinking. And it was like, it's true, right? Like you get a feel, but I can't trust that feel because that is that's filtered by my environment, that filters on my mood, that filters on what I'm going through, that filters on my desires and how I'm doing and moving towards them. And we all have challenges. So what I needed was truth. And it needs to deliver a result, meaning I should get on. If I'm trying to lose weight, one of the things you'd have me do is hop on a scale every now and then.
Right.
Because as much as I might feel like I'm doing the right things, the scale will show me the truth.
Right. That's a great point. I'm going to interject. That's a great point. And weight loss is a huge industry, so I want to interject. So you also want to make sure you're measuring the right things. And weight is that body fat percentage is actually the metric to measure. Because if I fill my coffee mug with fat and I have the exact same size coffee mug and I fill it with muscle, the volume is equal, but the muscle will weigh twice as much. So weight is not a good metric unless someone has a lot to shed. But even then, at some point, it gives you skewed results. So I just want to interject with that because it was a good teachable moment.
It's a good point. It was like a loose metaphor to just describe if we're doing this, we want to measure because the measurement shows us the truth of how we're going.
Right.
And it's not a straight line to success. It's a slow curving line where you're constantly adjusting and coming back on course. And so I created something as a simplified, I'm always looking for a way to simplify something so that it helps me get a base understanding. And I developed something called the core. And the core basically is in the center of the core is innovation. And innovation is what makes me unique. Now, how do I know I'm unique? Is I'm getting less comparisons on the market. So if I'm constantly getting compared, you're charging this and they're charging that, then I'm not communicating what makes me unique, or I'm not actually unique. So I've got to constantly find a way and go back to that. What is the problem with my industry? What is the problem I'm really solving? And am I doing this in the best way? The next one I call awareness. Now, awareness is what most people think is marketing, but awareness actually has things outside of the marketing channel, referrals, PR, doing what we're doing today, right? These are all awareness activities. Now, the result of a good awareness activity, if I understand my unique value, is leads. I have people saying, I'm interested. I have people going, I'm curious. I have people reaching out to me. I have people joining my mailing list. I have people coming into my marketing channels, right? That is a strong indication that I'm making people aware and I'm valuable. Now, if I'm making heaps of people aware and they're not showing up, it is a sign that I'm either not talking about it or my product isn't unique or different. The next one is conversion. How many people are buying? So of those people that are aware, how many convert? Now, I've had people tell me, I think conversion is the problem in my business. And I go, how many leads you get left? And they go, 3. They go 3. And I'm like, how many converted? And they're like, 2. I'm like, conversion is not your problem.
Yeah. Most businesses, this is a real golden nugget for a lot of the listeners. Most businesses, if you just doubled their leads or 10x their leads, they would have the growth they're looking for. Most businesses do not have a conversion. Everybody, like, traffic is the sexy thing, but it's the leads. It's the leads. It's not followers. It's not, sorry, you just said that. And it's just so common. They're like, oh, I need to improve my conversion. I actually did with a forecast analysis with a recent client / partner that I'm working with. And they're like, oh, I think we should split test our sales pages and we should do this. And we're like, okay, let's map it all out. Let's just map it all out. And if all we did was obsess about retention and getting more leads to their business, we could take them from 250,000 per year to 2 million per year. All we have to do is just obsess about retention and getting more of the people they're already getting to their site. This is an e-commerce brand. And it's just like you said, if we improved even the conversion rate by 50%, it did nothing. It was like a 14% bump, but it was like a 470 something % ROI or more. Well, I forget what it was. It was just blew it out of the water. Sorry.
That's probably a nugget for anybody growing their business.
Right.
Is they sit down and look, there's innovation, there's profit, which I call optimization. There's capacity, which is the number of transactions you can handle at any one time. There's conversion, which is the number of sales from your leads, and there's awareness, which is leads, right? Most people, when they come to you, will say it's about profit, about conversion, it's about leads. And only one of those is even close to being accurate. 9 times out of 10, your lead problem is actually a messaging problem. It's the fact that you're not stating what your value is, right? If you were doing that, the money you're putting into marketing would actually work. And if I'm looking at somebody who's made a certain amount of money and they've hit like this kind of line and they're going, I'm trying to get above it, but my marketing's not working. 9 times out of 10, if we take a closer look, it's a capacity problem. It's the fact that you're only set up to handle this many transactions. And so when you try to go beyond it, you start dropping the ball, you start losing customers. I call it you see these old tradie guys that are really brilliant at what they do. And I call it the old, because this is my dad. It's like this old tradie. And he comes up and everybody's, oh, you got to go see Wayne's friggin' fantastic. He'll do any project around your house. Go see Wayne. And eventually Wayne gets to a point where he's busy. I can only see you now in 2 weeks. And eventually he starts shortcutting projects. Now, the people that love him go, he's really busy. So they're not going to recommend him anymore because they want to save him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden his only marketing arm starts to dry up.
Yep.
Why? Because he's too freaking good.
Yeah.
But the idea is like, be good. That's how you get started, but build up your capacity. How can I do more? How can I structure this in a way where I can deliver the same result and go? And the other problem I find is the one I talked about before, is when you get to that level, if you don't understand that one thing that's driving your business, you will give it away because you come stressed out and you got to drop something. And more often than not, it's crazy, but people drop the one thing that drives them.
Yeah. Shiny object syndrome.
They just drop that one thing. They're trying to do a million things. They can't do the million things. So they drop the one thing that was driving their business. And then the business dies. And I'm like, and I see it over and over again. The average business here in Australia, I don't know where it is around the rest of the world, 74.5% of businesses are making less than 200,000. But the crazy amount is 42% are making less than 60 grand.
Which is
I can get 60 grand in Australia working at a fast food restaurant.
Right.
So I have all these people taking all this risk because they want all this reward and they're trying to take care of their family and they're earning less than they would in an average job.
Right. I think a lot of it too, you know, our education system has got us as far as it could, but it's due for an overhaul. You know, it was designed to create factory workers. It was, I think it was the Persian or Peruvian Empire. They lost a war against the Spanish, and the emperor realized he needed to rebuild his army quickly or risk losing everything. So he developed a training system to train up soldiers for specific roles in his army, and that became the foundation for our modern day Western education system, which was designed for factory workers. And you know that it was designed for factory workers because your breaks are announced with a factory bell, your chairs are aligned in assembly rows, and your teacher gives you a quality control scorecard, right, at the end of every quarter. And so it's designed, and there's nothing in there about healthy lifestyle, about paying your taxes, how to manage your finances, how to market and sell. There's none of that's really in there. The core foundations is everyone goes to university and gets a diploma for a role. And the reality is, if a university or a college or a high school can produce you for a job, they can produce 1,000 other people like you. So there's no job security in that. You might get a good premium for your career now, but that is just a matter of a couple of years till the waves of new students come through. So where the real, like you mentioned, being unique, stacking the skills in unique combinations that allow you to now leverage that skill set in unique ways, specialized for you and for who you're delivering it for. And that's where, that's where the protection comes from.
And being willing to be wrong. Yeah. I don't know a entrepreneur that isn't where he is because he faced down a fear. Like when you start a business, we don't know we're right. We have the courage to try. It's the courage to face being wrong. It's the courage to go, look, just because I'm wrong, it's not the end of my life. I can try again. Right. But you're taught in school all the way that if you get it wrong, it's the end of your life. You get an F. You don't get another chance at this. It is gone. And you're treating all these kids with fear, and we're trying to produce these entrepreneurs. Now, they talk about it in the book Species. I think in this book Species. And they talk about how we evolved from the middle of the food chain to the top of the food chain really quickly. And so we're alpha predators, but we still have the brain of a gazelle. And when you're a gazelle, what you want to be is in the middle of the pack. You don't want to be at the front. You don't want to be at the back. You want to be right in the middle. You want to get lost in the middle, because the people at the front and the back, they get picked off by the lions. But we're now alpha predators. We're now moving into an entrepreneurial society. And in that, you're the lion. You got to stand out. The lion, the alpha predator, has to stand out. If they try to blend in the pack, another lion takes over. And it's things about standing out. And everybody has this instinct that's built into them to sit in the middle of the pack. Right. Like I teach my people when I'm teaching them to go out, I'm like, make a statement. Go out there and go, I'm going to prove something. And every one of them goes, I can't do that. That's too scary. I'm like, but you're going to die a gazelle. Yeah. You're going to die anyways. That's the punchline. No, hey, newsflash.
no one escapes life alive. Hey, we're all hoping for longevity and immortality, but up until now, every living creature on the planet has died and has been dead longer than they've been alive, and they're gonna die at some point in time. Did you die?
Yeah,
what?
honestly, mate, and this is true of most entrepreneurs I talk to. When I die, and I will die
Right.
one day of my life, there'll be one day I don't survive, and I will, that day when you find me, you'll find me with broken claws, clawing my ass up a mountain, not fleeing down one.
I love that. That's right. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, every morning in Africa when the sun comes up, a gazelle wakes up and it knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. And every morning in Africa when the sun comes up, a lion wakes up and it knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. So the moral of the story is, it doesn't matter if you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. And I love that because it gets to it. We've got these social constructs in our society, like holidays and weekends. And I'm not trying to say hustle culture. Like, you need to get your rest. You need to sleep. That's a real thing. Like, you need to have silences as part of music, as noises. Without the pauses, there would be no melody. So that's a real thing. But when you look outside, you see the birds, you see the bees, you see the ants. None of them are going, hey, like the birds can't be like, hey, cat, I'm tired today. I'm taking a mental health day. Can you come back tomorrow? That just doesn't exist. That doesn't happen, right? That just doesn't happen. And so we have these mental constructs, and it's okay to take rest, but it's these. I actually had a talk with a team that I've been coaching lately for a client, and I was just like, the world is full of excuses. The world's hyper competitive. And because it's hyper competitive, everybody is racing to make it and survive. And everybody else will give you validation for sitting out. Like, you're right. You deserve a mental health day. Poor you. You should sit down while I keep running laps. That's right. Go take a break. And they might not be trying to do it for nefarious reasons, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you just gotta, nobody but your parents are going to care about your success as much as you do. And everyone will give you an excuse. And if you say you need to take a break, they'll go, okay, take a break. Yeah.
I got this advice one early day going, look, if a lot of people are agreeing with what it is you're doing, stop doing it. And the reason is, if you look at the market, most people are broke. Most people are unhappy in their lives. Most people are overweight. Most people are getting divorced. Most people aren't developing. Most people are stuck. And he goes, so if you ever say something and you got the whole room looking at you going, absolutely, stop doing it. Just stop doing it, because you are following the wrong role model.
Yeah.
You should either be standing out, or you should have one person looking back at you going, he was giving me advice around even finances. If you say, I'm going to do something with your finances, and the whole table goes, that's a great idea, don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're going to lose. That's not how that game gets played.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. And so I think it's the same in the business, right? The sinister thing of excuses is they are a little bit right. There is some truth in them. And it's that little bit of truth that just takes you off the hook, because they're also not true. And I'm not going to sit there when somebody says, I don't have the time. I'm not going, you have all the time in the world. That is true. But yeah, it'll feel like you don't have time because you're not prioritizing the right things. Mm-hmm. One of the things I'll do with a client really early, and it's really simple, is I'll go, what do you want? And they'll go, I want this. I want $1 million in my business. I go, great. Okay. Show me your calendar. Mm-hmm. And I'll look at the calendar and I'm like, I'd better know just by looking at your calendar, that's what you want. But that's not true for most people. And I'll go, show me your bank account. What are you investing in? Right? And then I'll go, I should be able to tell from what you invest your money in, what's important to you. Mm-hmm. Show me the people you hang out with. Show me the team you have. Show me what you measure every day. Show me your routines. None of these things align up to what you say is important. And because of that, you don't have time. You don't have money. You don't have, the people to help you. You don't have the intelligence. You don't have the knowledge. When somebody gives you an excuse, it's a clue that you're out of alignment. That's it. So go get an alignment.
I love that. I love that.
You either have no money or no time. It's very unlikely you'll have both. And if you do have both, you're completely out of alignment because you're spending your time doing stuff that creates no money. You either go, that's what I want from life, and therefore I'm aligned, or that's not what I want from life, and you change it. And look, I didn't grow up super, like I was, less than.
Yeah, we actually, for people that don't know, I actually never knew Michael, until we got connected for this call, but we actually grew up like 20 minutes away from each other as kids. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
keep going. Yeah.
So I didn't grow up with all these resources. I grew up pretty poor. Like I grew up on a dirt road. I grew up having to, work my own job so I could afford something that wasn't from this boutique shopping center called Giant Tiger. I had to, like, I wanted a brand name. I had to actually go earn it by cutting lawns and stuff like that. I didn't get given anything. And in fact, just 10 years ago, I was $500,000 in debt. I did not have an easy path. I was that guy making all those excuses. And the problem with those excuses, they let me off the hook. They let me stay there. And by the way, I had lots of company because most of the world was in that spot. Lots of people were like, hey, it's okay. It's not your fault. It's all the rich people that they're stealing your money. I can tell you, I've met lots of those rich people and they're not stealing shit. They're just adding value. They're just getting up and prioritizing the right things every day and being rewarded for it.
Yep.
They're not out there going, I wonder whose money I can take today.
No.
The only people that think like that are the people with no money.
I'll say, to be candid, it is a jungle, and there are all shapes and sizes. And there are people that are nefarious. If you look at the big pharma industry as one, they've paid over $20 billion in criminal fines from 2022 to 2013. Now, you can talk about if that's intentional or not, but not everybody, what am I trying to say? Like, utopias don't exist. But the vast majority of people that are making good money, it is possible to make good money, be a good person, and add more value to this world. And you have to think about your immortal soul. We go back to that, we're all going to die. Or let's say we achieve immortality. Okay, I can upload my brain and now I live forever. Sure, if that's what you want. Or we have an immortal soul. Let's take that. So on an infinite timeline, what are the accomplishments I'm going to be most proud of? What would be the trophies my soul would put on the mantle? Would it be the times that I rip people off and when I sent people to live in a destitute hell? Would those be the moments that I was proud of? Or would it be the times that I lifted people up and treated them like my own and raised them and put them above? Money is just an inert thing. And it's really about who you want to be in this world. And a lot of people say, and I believe it's true because I've experienced it, it's an accelerant. If a lot of people win the lottery and they're broke years later because they had bad financial management skills and they got $1 million and they just didn't manage it and lost it all. And it's very rare that you just see it all the time. Lottery winners end up bankrupt. And it's just because it accelerates their bad habits. And
you
so
see with athletes,
yeah,
with $1 million athletes that are broke 2 years after retiring.
100%. And bro, you had 30 million, you had even 5 million, you had 40 million, you had whatever, a couple 100 million pass through your fingertips. What happened? What happened? What happened? And it happens. It happens all the time.
Like Mike Tyson, right? I love Mike Tyson, to be honest, right? But $100 million, he was broke.
Yep.
Why was he broke? Because that's where he'd come from. He was broke when he started the sport. He never learned, and he learned how to box. He didn't learn how to change his financial side. Right. So it's funny. The rich people never buy the Ferraris.
Yeah,
the soon-to-be
Warren
poor
Buffett
people buy
drives
Ferraris.
the same beat-up jalopy he got in his 20s or something like that. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of the rules I had to get out of debt was simply I put a rule in place that said I will not buy anything until I can afford 2 of them.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Right? And it was just like that became my new rule. And the weird thing is, by the time I could afford 2 of something, I was like, actually, I don't want that. I want this. So now I got to save until I can afford 2 of those. And it was like, it just showed me how to prioritize and how to leverage, because money itself has no inherent value. None. The only things that have value is what you're purchasing with it and what you had to do to earn it.
Right.
Those are the only 2 places where value even comes into the equation. Money itself has 0 value to it. It's got none, right? If somebody is not willing to take your money, then it's got no value.
So let me circle back, and what specific skills or behaviors do you believe are important to improve or develop?
That's a big list. Are we talking generally, or are we talking about business?
Both, because I think you and I both know a lot of people that maybe have a good business, but their life is in shambles, and that's what's stopping them.
Skills
and behaviors.
Okay. So the skills, I would say communication is one, right? Communication, you got to be developing that skill, and the mechanisms of communication and your ability to communicate, negotiate, your ability to influence, your ability to motivate, get other people on. And there's a structure to it. It is a skill. It's not something that people inherently have. I was a shy kid. I've worked on my ability to communicate. I've worked on how to use my voice, how to change inflection, how to read. The other skill, I think, is your ability to read another person, which is part of communication, but your ability to understand how they think and how to talk into those points, how to hear with more than your ears, right? Your ears hear their words, which is about 7% of what they're saying to you.
Right.
So it's, can you hear with your eyes? Can you hear with your energy? Can you hear with those other parts of you that are going to be able to help you communicate? Because the person that can communicate best can get whatever resource they want. Okay. And so I think that's a big skill. I think the habits are, get away from doing the big stuff. Find the little 2mm things you can do. The people that go for the big stuff, they suffer big losses. I like to, tell a story where I get clients on the phone. I'm like, I had this girl one day and she was single at the time. I said, okay, I want you to think of 2 boyfriends. The first boyfriend, man, he's going to sweep you off your feet for Valentine's Day, for your anniversary, and for your birthday. And when he goes all out, he's got the private jet, he flies you around. But the rest of the year, he doesn't even know you exist. He treats you bad. He doesn't care how you think. But when it's an important date, he's there. The other guy, he comes home every day. He listens to you. He says, I love you. He works with you towards what you want. He's there understanding. He's not trying to fix you, but he's always got a shoulder for you. But son of a bitch can never remember your Valentine's Day, can never remember when your birthday is, and he never remembers an anniversary. Which of the two is the better relationship? And they always go the second one. Wish the guy would get a calendar. But it's the second one. It's the little things stacked up that matter. And that's true of all things in life. It is those little repetitions. Stop looking at people as gifts. It's because he's talented at that. No, he just worked his ass off at that. He did little things consistently over time. Kobe Bryant, when he took that winning shot, somebody asked him, you've got such a talent. Did you know you needed the ball? And he goes, man, I've taken that shot 1,000 times. I've taken that shot 1,000 times when you guys weren't watching. You just happened to see it this time. He goes, no, I knew that ball was going in because I made that shot 1,000 times. And so we look at people and see these gifts and these talents. The talent is the resilience. The talent is dedication. The talent is having the faith to go, if I keep working at this, something will come.
Right.
The talent,
prospecting and constantly prospecting. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So the talent comes from just putting in that effort over and over again. Right. It's enjoy the journey, not the results. They'll pass. And the weird thing about results is the minute you get them within a short period of time, they look like bad results. Like you celebrate, you're like, I got this result. And then 2 weeks later, you're looking at the exact same result going, it's not enough. But the journey, if you can fall in love with doing the journey, with going through the process and see that it's all a game, and you fall in love with the game, you're going to win more than you lose. And we were talking about sport earlier, right? It's, that when you shoot in a hockey game or in a basketball game, it's way more likely the ball's not going to go in or the puck's not going to go in than that it does. And the guys that think it should have gone in 100% of the time, they stop shooting. But if you don't shoot, you're never going to score. And it's the guys that end up being like the ones that we put in Hall of Fame and we say, this is the greatest player ever. Typically, they took more shots. That was 100%. The big difference. They just kept shooting. They went through slumps. They had times where they couldn't put it in. They had bad games. They had all of it, but they never stopped. They just kept going. The ones that quit, we never hear of them.
I love it. Yeah. Remember that guy who gave up? Neither does anybody else. I love that. I love that. So where do you think things are going? What are some of the trends you're keeping your fingers on the pulse of? We've got a lot happening geopolitically. There's a lot happening economically worldwide. There are a lot of technological advancements. There's a certain group of people, myself included, who feels there's an agenda being pushed on the world by unelected people. What are over the next 3, 5, 10, 15 years, what are you watching come down the pipeline that you think the listeners maybe want to keep an eye on as well?
I think anything that is still a lack of convenience and a low productivity thing, meaning one-to-one, is going to disappear. And I'm saying our school system, our medical setup for absolute certain, because one of the things that causes an economy like this is where you print extra cash, but the productivity doesn't increase. And we literally printed a bunch of cash for 2 years, right? And said, everybody stay home. So we forced productivity down. And the reason we're feeling what we're feeling right now is that productivity has to rise to the amount of cash we printed. They can't just take the cash off the market. So I think you're going to see a lot of technological advances over the next little while, particularly around productivity. I think you're going to see the medical industry completely change. I think home self-diagnosis is going to be the thing, and you're only ever going to see a doctor for a treatment plan. So I think the whole medical system has to change. I think schooling, we were talking about this earlier, I think schooling is going to change. I think you're going to get people that are subject matter experts that are teaching to classrooms of 100 people. And I think your base level, your early, your primary, and your high school will be learning how to learn quickly. It's going to shift. It's going to go away from subject matter to how do we get this person to think? How do we get this person to see outside the box? How do we get this person to recognize trends and adapt? Like, how do we get them more connected to the world and what's really happening? And I think you're going to see, we're already seeing it, right? You're seeing it in these little spot schools, but I think the education system is about to collapse. It's already underperforming for what the world needs. We're producing more master's students than we've ever done in the whole lifetime, yet productivity across the world is going down.
Fair enough.
So it no longer serves its purpose. So I think my wife is in the education industry, right? So she would not be happy that I'm having this conversation right now, but she recognizes it's shifting. I think transport's going to change. I don't think we're even going to own cars in the future. I think transport's going to become a service industry, much like trains. I think once we have autonomous cars, it's literally going to be that thing you order and it's going to show up at your house, which means houses are going to change. Garages aren't going to be there anymore. We're going to be able to have either smaller houses or more capacity within those houses. So we're going to be able to deal with more population. I think those things are going to change. I think our food industry is already changing. I think we're in a seismic shift time right now. We're living in a time they will talk about in history books in the future. We're living in a time that our kids will study when they're in school. Because there's going to be some seismic shifts happening. So I think if you're in business and you help people with productivity, this is your time. I think if you're in business and you're not using some of these productivity tools, you're going to struggle. You're going to fall behind. I think you need to be focused on convenience within your clients. How can I make this more accessible? How can I make it easier? How can I make this more touchless? I think that's what you got to be looking at. If you're still thinking bricks and mortars and they got to come to me, your business is going to fall to the wayside. If I'm in the health industry, I'm thinking self-diagnosis at the moment. How can I diagnose somebody without exposing them to a whole bunch of other people? Right now, what was happening with COVID? To prove COVID, you had to actually literally go into a group of people, wait in line, potentially sick. And then inevitably, you had a whole bunch of people sick. And it was actually our diagnosis process that was causing that. I think you're going to see more of that type of stuff, which means chemical engineering, which means there's just so many other things that are going to happen. I think it's an exciting time. We're quickly approaching singularity, or what they talk about is singularity in sci-fi. I think we're doubling the information in the world currently every 20 some days. So it's crazy. And singularity is where it's doubling literally on the moment, like every second it's doubling. And we're quickly approaching that. So by the end of the year, they're saying every 12 days. By 2025, it'll be every 12 hours. That should get you either excited or scared or both.
I'm not worried about it because I just think it's our recorded information. Right now, our life is to the universe what a wave is to the ocean. And it's already been happening everywhere all the time simultaneously up until now. And so the fact that we're just becoming aware of that, I'm like, yeah, okay, true. Hive mind is exciting, but we have to shake off these parasites. We don't make search and destroy bots. That's why censorship is so dangerous. That's why we really, like we talked about before, have to be focused on outcomes. Like, we don't go out and slaughter all the monkeys. We might displace some and hurt some in our development and progress, but we're not seeking and destroying them. But when you create a bot that censors things like certain types of speech, it is a seek and destroy bot. And when you do that with AI, that becomes incredibly versus adhering to universal truths, pursuing universal truths. That is the safe way to proceed forward versus. So that's where, again, we have to really have conversations around outcomes, and it's going to be exciting. That's for sure.
It's funny. We're like the only species that actually kills each other.
That's not true.
Lions will fight, but they don't necessarily kill each other, right?
Well, praying mantis, bears cannibalize each other. black widow spiders eat their young. There's a lot of creatures that injure. Either you can watch there's a great documentary, Rise of the Warrior Ape. It's on YouTube. It's talks about this chimp troop. So chimps are our closest relatives, and anthropologists love studying them. And usually a chimp troop is 20, 30 chimps. And they found a group of 60 in the Congo, and they started analyzing it. And the doc is about watching this troop grow from 80 to 260, which is exponentially more than they've ever seen. And they were extremely violent. It's an interesting thing, but I digress. And I also want to respect your time. Matthew, is there anything Michael, is there anything I haven't asked you I should have asked you?
No, I think we've had a good chat around this.
Where do people go if they want to know more?
Look, they can find me on your typical social platforms. So you'll find me on Facebook, you'll find me on LinkedIn, you'll find me on Instagram. I'm quite active on the first two. I'm not as active on the last one. You can find me at mjbevolve.com.au. And on that, I've got lots of blogs and resources that are step-by-step guides because I want to stand for execution. You'll find me speaking and on podcasts. Just look for me. You're going to find me. I do a lot of content. If you're in Australia, come to one of the events. I'd love to meet people in person. And yeah, that'd be how you find me.
So go check out mjbevolve.com.au for Australia. That is mjbevolve.com.au. Go find him on social media. Michael Johnston, MichaelJohnston. Michael, thank you so much for coming. This has been a great conversation. I think people probably want to listen to it a couple of times, make sure they get all the nuggets out of it. I know you got your own following, your own family, your own clients to take care of. So thank you for coming and sharing all this wisdom with my audience and myself. You are appreciated.
I've really appreciated this. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks, man.